Hey, what's up, modern photographers? This is Eric Kim from the Modern Photography blog. Currently talking with Cindy behind the camera, and we're going to talk a little bit about money.
So, can you walk us through a little bit about the most difficult and most interesting chapter that we wrote?
All right, so excellent question, Cindy. One of the most difficult chapters in the Modern Photographer was talking about money because I think money is one of the most taboo subjects in photography, art, and in a lot of cultures, money is seen as the root of all evil. And I know, especially for me, being raised in America with a lot of Christian morality, money is kind of this dirty thing that you're not allowed to talk about. And somehow, if you start charging money for your services, you're quote-unquote selling out. Cindy and I, while we're working the book, we asked ourselves, what does money mean to us and why have money? And so for us, we realized that freedom, artistic output, and flexibility were our core values in life. And therefore, we had to sacrifice a lot of things in terms of money, in terms of not having as much stability with our income. It's a lot more erratic, and also not owning a lot of material things like a home or a car. And we essentially live very lightly. And you got to ask yourself as a photographer in today's modern age, do you want to make money out of photography? If so, do you want it as your side income? Or do you want to make a full-time living from it? And anything regarding money and photography and visual art, there's no right or wrongs. It's just you have to be brutally honest with yourself and think about your own personal relationship with money and whether you think you want to make money from your photography, and if so, how to make money from your photography.
But why do you think it's so difficult for photographers or artists, even outside of the photography and art world, to talk and think about money, or to feel like what is the challenge about thinking about money in terms of value or in terms of progress?
Well, one of the big things that as a modern photographer in today's modern times, unfortunately most of us, we quantify our self-worth through how much money we make. And as an example, if as a photographer or a visual artist, if you're not making money from your photography, then you're kind of shielded, you're kind of protected, saying, hey, I just do it for the love for it, so I don't have to worry about money. But let's say you do take the risk and you are bold and you do try to make money, and let's say nobody buys your pictures, let's say nobody attends your photography workshops, let's say nobody buys your products, then it's just very discouraging. Then you just think that, oh, do people not appreciate me as a photographer? Do they not like me? Do they not like my art? And so I think, to be really honest, a lot of photographers are just afraid to sell their photos for money. And if so, let's say they do want to make money from their photography, a lot of photographers just don't know how to market, promote, and brand themselves. And it's not of the problem of the photographer, it's, as photographers, we're image makers. We're not marketers, we're not self-promoters, and it's not something we're taught even in photography school. So what we're trying to do with the modern photographer is change the culture that it's okay to make money from photography, and also give some practical tips, suggestions on how to make money and how to monetize your photography, your art, and your photographic services.
So you just touched on two interesting topics, if you can elaborate on them. The first is this idea that if for some reason you put yourself out there and you didn't make money or some type of financial quantification, then you just kind of feel shitty. Do you have any advice for people to help motivate them or help them to think differently about how they track progress and think about money?
One of the biggest tips I would give you guys regarding money is thinking about intrinsic versus extrinsic value. So intrinsic value is your self-worth, how you feel about yourself, your photos, and what you think they're worth. Then there's the extrinsic value, is how much money is actually somebody willing to pay for your photos, your own services. On a practical basis, I always think to myself, what is the worst case scenario? So let me give you an example. Let's say, we put a risk by making this book, and let's say we spend a week doing it, we spend our heart and our soul into it. Let's say nobody buys any of it. And then obviously, I'm going to feel disappointed. Shitty. Like, oh, we spent so much effort on The Modern Photographer and we thought that it would help a lot of people, but no one bought the book. Does that mean we're stupid? Does it mean we're failures? Do it mean that we're losers? And no, maybe, perhaps. So the intrinsic value, I know the book's amazing, it's awesome, but extrinsic value, let's say, maybe that there's not really yet a market for a book on photography marketing, on self-branding and self-promotion. And therefore, it's also detaching your ego from your sales and your progress as a photographer, at least in terms of the social, economic sense. So once again, to reiterate, I know my intrinsic value, that I have lots of good information on how to market, brand, and promote yourself as a photographer. And I know the book is intrinsically worth a lot. Yet extrinsically, essentially as an entrepreneur and a photographer and a visual artist, you have to take risks because you don't know if people are going to buy. You have to test the waters, be bold, and essentially put yourself out there.
So last question touches on the second topic. What are a few of the biggest, concrete, specific things or skills that you would want to share with other photographers in thinking about how to market and brand?
That is an excellent question. So practical tips on how to market and brand yourself. Okay, first practical tip in terms of marketing and branding yourself. Use your first and last name. This is such a simple concept that a lot of photographers fail. They'll say something like, oh, what is your photography brand? It's like, oh, I'm Dark Mysterious Images, or I'm the Decisive Moment Photography. And using your first and your last name is the best marketing tool you could do in terms of your personal branding, because the first thing people will do when they meet you, they're going to Google you. They're going to Google your first and last name. Also, by building up your personal brand in terms of your name, names are generally more memorable. And I would recommend all photographers to register their own website, their own domain. So using a provider such as 101.com or bluehost.com, using the free open source platform wordpress.org. And whenever you promote your pictures, just add your first and your last name in the title of your posts and the text. And when you're promoting yourself as a visual artist, don't be afraid to state why you're valuable. And that's the second thing is, in terms of personal branding, don't just say what you do or who you are, just talk about the benefits you give to people and how you help empower people. So for example, Eric Kim, am mostly known as a street photographer, and Eric Kim's unique selling proposition or value or benefit he's giving others is how to help other people conquer their fears, to build their personal confidence, and to meet new peers, to be a bridge to build a community of like-minded individuals. And that's point two. The last point in terms of personal branding is don't censor yourself, don't be humble, and also essentially be you. There's only one of you out there. You are a personality, you are unique, you are special, you have a lot of great value to give to other people in the rest of the world. So don't self-doubt yourself, don't feel like you're bragging, don't feel like you need to be humble. Speak what you believe is true. Know that ultimately it's your own opinion, and whether you find people who will agree with your opinion or not isn't really the matter. But once again, being brutally honest, being very genuine, I think people can smell bullshit from a mile away. So the more genuine you are, the less you bullshit. That's probably the best personal marketing strategy I have.
Okay, so if they want to pick up this book, where would they go?
So if you want to pick up a copy of Modern Photographer, either go to hapticindustries.com or just Google Eric Kim blog and just click the shop link, or just Google Eric Kim Modern Photographer book. And there's tons of information, resources, practical tips and strategies to help empower you as a visual image maker, practical tips on how to be more productive as a photographer and artist. And we'll also include a link below. Click the description link and there'll be a direct link to the Haptic Industry store to buy the book. Also, another idea, if you know any other photographers who